In a world where information spreads at lightning speed, the line between fact and fiction can often blur. But what happens when that blurred line becomes a battleground for free speech? Today, we're diving into the eye of a political storm sparked by none other than Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State and presidential candidate. Picture this. It's a typical evening on MSNBC. Rachel Maddow's show is in full swing, and her guest is Hillary Clinton. The conversation is flowing, touching on various political hot topics. But then, Clinton drops a bombshell that sets social media ablaze. She suggests that Americans spreading what she calls misinformation should face legal consequences. Yes, you heard that right, legal consequences for sharing information. Now, before we go any further, let's take a step back and consider the context. We're living in an era where the term fake news has become a household phrase. Social media platforms are grappling with the spread of misinformation, and governments worldwide are trying to figure out how to handle this digital age dilemma. But Clinton's comments have taken this debate to a whole new level. Clinton's exact words were, "Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda, and whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence." Now that's a statement that's bound to raise eyebrows, and it certainly did. The reaction was swift and polarized. Clinton's supporters argue that she's addressing a real threat to democracy. They point to instances where misinformation has led to real-world consequences, from election interference to public health crises. On the other hand, her critics are crying foul, seeing this as an attack on the First Amendment and a dangerous step towards government overreach. But the controversy doesn't stop there. In the same interview, Clinton also spoke about Donald Trump, her former political rival. She emphasized the need for the press to create a consistent narrative about the dangers she believes Trump poses. This has added fuel to the already raging fire of political division in the country. Now let's put this in perspective. The debate over how to handle misinformation is not new. Social media platforms have been grappling with this issue for years, implementing fact-checking systems and content moderation policies. But the idea of legal consequences for sharing information, even if it's deemed false, takes this to a whole new level. It's worth noting that this isn't happening in a vacuum. The political climate in the United States has been tense, to say the least. We've seen heated debates over election integrity, the role of the media, and the limits of free speech. Clinton's comments have landed right in the middle of these ongoing discussions, acting as a catalyst for even more intense debate. But here's where it gets really interesting. While Clinton is suggesting potential legal consequences for misinformation, she herself has been accused of spreading misleading information in the past. Critics are quick to point out instances where they believe she has bent the truth or made statements that weren't entirely accurate. This raises an important question. Who gets to decide what qualifies as misinformation? The implications of Clinton's suggestions are far-reaching. If implemented, how would such a system work? Who would be the arbiter of truth? How would we ensure that this power isn't abused for political gain? These are complex questions without easy answers. It's also crucial to consider the potential chilling effect on free speech. If people are afraid of legal consequences for sharing information, might they become hesitant to engage in political discourse at all? Could this lead to a less informed, less engaged citizenry? On the flip side, proponents of Clinton's view might argue that unchecked misinformation poses its own threat to democracy. If false information can spread unchallenged, doesn't that also undermine the foundations of an informed electorate? As we wrap up this discussion, it's clear that we're standing at a crossroads. The debate over free speech, misinformation, and the role of government in regulating information is far from over. Clinton's comments have simply brought these issues into sharper focus. So where do we go from here? As citizens in a democracy, it's crucial that we engage with these issues thoughtfully. We need to consider the balance between combating harmful misinformation and protecting the fundamental right to free speech. It's a complex issue with no easy solutions, but it's a conversation we need to have. In the end, perhaps the most important takeaway from this controversy is the reminder of how vital it is to stay informed, think critically, and engage in respectful dialogue about the issues that shape our society. After all, in a world where information is power, How we handle that information will define the future of our democracy.